Hello everyone, how are you going? Welcome to 5 fun things to do for free in Toronto in the summer, which is definitely a bit of a mouthful, but also definitely gets the point across. And so let's just see, what does Toronto have on offer for us?
Toronto is a really expensive city, but when it comes to recreation, there are actually a ton of things that you can do for free, especially in the summer. For those of you who are planning to visit Toronto, and even for those of you who have been living here in the city for quite a while and just want to explore the city again, here are 5 fun things that you can do in Toronto this summer that are free. Number 1 is to visit the ROM, or the Royal Ontario Museum. The Royal Ontario Museum is Canada's largest museum and showcases art, culture, and nature from around the world and across the ages. One of my favorite exhibitions, for example, is this one that showcases the beginning of time and the dinosaur age. I really recommend going to the ROM, especially during extreme weather. Like right now in the summer when it gets up to 35 degrees Celsius, you can take a break from the heat and just chill inside.
Fair enough, and that is definitely a good one. And I guess most cities do have a museum, but most cities also, in my experience, is definitely not in Australia, most cities do not just have massive skeletons and all those fossils. My goodness, the fact that they have that many, I can't even find it. Ah, there they are. Look at that. Those beautiful reassemblies of the entire thing, and it's so detailed. And I mean, I guess looking at it now, I am now wondering, does Sydney have any of these? Because I don't remember the last time I went to the Sydney or the Australian Museum, and so perhaps they have something, especially considering Australia is such a fossil breeding ground, so to say. I would have thought that they would have some, but I really don't remember having that many, and now I'm wondering how big is our museum compared to this museum, the ROM. I mean, if nothing else, it definitely does not look like that, and I guess thinking about it, what is it with museums that are just having very, very complicated and funky architecture just going on with them? Between even the Louvre up to this thing, they're all kind of one and the same, but there are so many really curvy, up to really pointy, like this one, museums all over the world that generally other buildings don't seem to copy. But hey, now that she has actually brought this entire thing to my attention, I absolutely agree with the fact that if you were going to be going to a museum, you might as well do it on an extreme weather day, whether that be in the summer, like she said, in 35, 40 degrees, or I can only imagine in winter it's going to be a pretty nice experience as well. I mean, maybe harder to get to, a little bit more awkward, and in saying that, maybe that is when they were going to be rolling over the exhibitions because there is going to be less people coming through, but otherwise, I reckon most people, if not everyone, doesn't go to the museum enough, just learning about, like I said, culture, history, everything involved.
But wait a second, is this really free? Don't you have to buy a museum ticket? Yes, and the regular admission is $18 for youth, students, and seniors ages 65 and above, and $14 for children, but it's $23 for adults. And this is just the general admission and doesn't include any special exhibitions. But luckily, you can visit the ROM for free, even as an adult or no matter what your age is, on every third Tuesday of each month from 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. only. The program is called Third Tuesday Nights Free.
Well, of course there is a catch, and of course they just know how to get people hook, line, and sinker. If it sounds too good to be true, it is probably too good to be true, because I can only imagine the third Tuesday of every month, or however they want to word it, they're going to be having people just turn up on the odd Tuesday or the wrong Tuesday, and they go, well, we're here anyway, we might as well just pay for the ticket. And so it's a bit of a double-edged sword. They're going, yeah, we will provide this, but I'm sure they're just going to be getting people into the museum in general as well. But hey, I guess to be fair, it is definitely not a scam, and you are also certainly not losing out on anything. And so if you do happen to have your third Tuesday night free, then I'd say that's an awesome thing just to take up the time.
Number 2 is biking in Toronto. Toronto has a very decent cycling infrastructure, and it's really fun to explore different neighborhoods on bike rather than taking a car or public transportation. There are so many beautiful trails in Toronto and around the GTA, including the area of Queen Street East near the beaches, and also the waterfront trail at Humber Bay at the west end of Toronto is just beautiful. It's one of my favorite places to hang out. And if you wanted to and have the stamina, you can even keep on cycling to Port Credit and all the way down to Burlington. Yes, this is actually a thing, and there are some people I know who actually cycle all the way from Toronto to Burlington. But for starters, it's easier to just pick a neighborhood, for example, High Park or downtown area, and just start by exploring that. If you live in Toronto and you don't have a bike yet, then I would highly recommend you to get one. You can get a decent bike anywhere from $300 and above. And if later on you don't need it anymore, you can very easily resell it. And if you're just visiting Toronto for a short time, or you're planning to use the bike just occasionally, then you can just rent a bike from BikeShare. And I also have a video on that right up here that will show you how you can rent a bike from BikeShare.
Fair enough. There is always going to be so many more options that suddenly become available to you when you just have a third or another or a different or even a singular mode of transport besides walking, and honestly a bike can be an awesome way if you were just living in the CBD of any city. Bikes, maybe skateboards, any of those just mobility vehicles, it's just awesome things to be having. And from what she is saying and also what she is showing us here, there definitely seem to be plenty of opportunities and little spots just to check out that, like she said, you'd never really be able to get to. And even just the fact that commuting via a bike can really be so fast, you can really just eat up the miles if you really want to, or you can really just cruise at almost walking pace. There's such a range. You can't really drive a car around at walking pace, but you can ride a bike at almost car pace. 60k an hour, 50k an hour. That's as fast as you're going to be going in these streets, I can only imagine. The only thing that I do want to know is how far was she talking about? She was saying from, I guess, all the way down to Burlington. That does seem like quite the distance. If we go measure distance all the way down to, wow, okay. I expected it to be far, but I didn't exactly expect it to be 50 kilometers. But I guess to be fair, there are plenty of people that I know that just cycle, I don't know, 50k, 100k in a day just between going cycling and then going out into the mountain bikes and doing all those kind of things. And so if you do just have the entire day, it sounds like it's not the worst idea to be doing, especially just for your health if nothing else.
Number 3 is Hyde Park Zoo. I must say that in the beginning I was quite surprised to find out that admission to Hyde Park Zoo is free. Hyde Park, by the way, if you haven't been there, is located on the west side of Toronto, and you can easily get there by bus, subway, or even bike. And I would recommend spending a whole afternoon or early evening walking through Hyde Park itself, stopping by Grenadier Pond and Grenadier Cafe even, and then going to the zoo, which is located around the middle of Hyde Park. And according to the website, it's opened every day from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And personally, I would highly recommend you to go on a weekday rather than on a weekend, because you can imagine how many families and kids are all visiting Hyde Park Zoo on the weekend at the same time. And by the way, I'm planning to make a separate video on Hyde Park Zoo that will be coming out in the next few months.
Well, I just had to pause it there and see what kind of animals these people have between the yak, which is certainly not something that I would have expected to have, and then the reindeer as well. I mean, every time I see those fluffy antlers, and even just the word reindeer, it doesn't seem as though it's meant to be a real thing, but I know that the entire mythical creature is based off the real creature. But then even the fact that there is an emu, I mean, the capybara does make sense, and I guess the bison being North America does make sense, but to have a bison and a yak, wow. I mean, in my mind, yak isn't North American at all, and so I would love to know, where are they getting these animals from? I mean, even the Barbary sheep, I don't even know, but that does not look like any sheep that I've ever seen. That looks like a mountain goat more than a sheep. But let's just see, how long is this going to take to load, because I have to go all the way to Canada and then back. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Friends of Hyde Park Zoo since 1839, fair enough. Visit the zoo hours of operation. Animals, here we go. Let's see, have they added anything since this video was released? Okay, only 9 months ago, fair enough though. But capybara, no. The mouflon sheep, I don't know if that is French or if I've just never heard or seen that word before. Either way, they definitely haven't added anything, but there is a decent assortment of animals here for just being in the middle of a park in the middle of a city, not a particular zoo. I mean, it's a zoo, but it's a zoo in the middle of the park. Like, I know that Centennial Park doesn't have a zoo in it. And look, even though there are going to be some zoos that definitely sadly reinforce some negative stereotypes about zoos in the world, there are also so many amazing people that do incredible work, from rehabilitation to reintroduction to just educating the masses en masse. It's such an incredible job and really difficult to do, just to try and take us back to those roots and actually go, no, this animal just isn't mince or anything like that. They actually are this, and just have that connection again.
Number 4 is Humber Bay, which is located at the west side of Toronto, also very close to Hyde Park. Humber Bay is one of my absolutely favorite places to hang out. The scenery is absolutely beautiful. There's the Humber Arch Bridge. People just stop there, hang out around the bridge and take selfies and photos. And there's also Sheldon Outlook over here. And from there, and in general from Humber Bay, you can also see CN Tower. I've been up the CN Tower once, and I had to pay a high price for it, and it was worth it to do it once. It was so great to see the city of Toronto from above, but I would argue that seeing CN Tower from afar at a distance from Humber Bay is not less of an experience. So definitely make sure that you visit Humber Bay. And by the way, it gets super packed in the summer, so I would recommend you to also not go on the weekends, but try to go on a weekday morning if you can get a day off. Or if you want to take photos, go in the evening for the best lighting.
Now, of course, everything that she is mentioning has some level of caveats, but hey, that is just how the world works. Nothing really is ever free, and really, even the things that you pay for can obviously just also have lines and be busy and all those kind of stuff, no matter what time you go. And so, like she said, if you can just pick the right time out of peak hour, then you might have a better time, or you might not. It's just down to the fact that what you make of it. Do you have a bike? Do you enjoy the scenery? Do you stop off along the way? Or are you just riding, just trying to make it home in the blistering rain, in the blistering cold, whatever it may be? Just make sure you picked your time and just enjoy the sunset while you're there. Coming back to the imagery that she's showing us though, I am now wondering, how tall is CN Tower? I mean, I believe I've searched it up before, but I have no recollection. If I had to remember, it's like 480 meters or something to the top, or is that to the globe? Where is it going to see? CN Tower is a 553.3 meter high concrete communications and observation tower in downtown Toronto. Wow. I didn't know that it was a communications tower. I would have thought that it's just a tower that's used for communications because it's the tallest thing around. But that is exactly how they scam you in terms of the height of the overall buildings, because look at that, the main observation level is 350 meters, not 550 meters, which means that is 200 meters of aerial above it. That seems very, very excessive, and I know that Centrepoint Tower in Sydney is not that high. Either way, coming back to the video itself, I guess I just will have to agree with the fact that going up these towers at least once is definitely worthwhile, and it may cost you a bit of money, but just to get that insane perspective on the city that you know, just being able to see that road and how things connect, you go, oh wow, that's incredible. But then also just having these free things where you just get the perspective again, just the distance, it's all just relative and it's all just amazing.
Number 5 is the beaches at Queen Street East. The Beaches is a very relaxed neighborhood, and in case you're new here in Toronto, it is also one of the favorite neighborhoods for people to live here in Toronto. It has a ton of great cafes, of which many, by the way, close quite early, even as early as 4 p.m. So if you want to go there and visit any specific cafe, make sure that you check out their opening hours in advance. For a fun and relaxed day that won't cost you a penny, go to the beachfront. The beaches here are large and sandy, while around Humber Bay, the sidewalks are relatively smaller and it feels more dense and more packed. Here around the beaches, although it can also get very crowded, just feels a bit more spacious. And also the beaches here has more of an ocean feel to it compared to Humber Bay. The beaches, duh. You can run or bike here as many people do, or just go for a leisurely stroll. And if you really just want to relax and let go, you can just lie on the beach and even swim here in the summer. But in case you want to swim, make sure that you pay attention to the signages along the beach.
Well, look, there were definitely a few things within this clip that just caught me by surprise, so to say, and none more than that sand. Like, I don't know, it just ain't it. It looks like rock, almost as though, I don't know, it's from London or something. Like, you want to be calling it the beaches. And when she first said the beaches, I expected it to be the going to the beaches, not the beaches being a neighborhood, which kind of just sounds a little bit try-hard if you ask me. Especially when you were then going ahead and whacking up shots like this. I mean, that just doesn't look appetizing whatsoever. And even the fact that then she had to go ahead and say, oh, well, you know, you can swim at these places. I mean, that just had me wondering, why would you not be able to swim at them? It's the ocean, isn't it? Well, I mean, unless you just got a nuclear plant or a sewage plant or something like right next door, I would imagine you could swim with them. I mean, of course, taking the necessary precautions in terms of water safety, like they were saying with the lifeguards being around and all those kind of things, but just in terms of saying you can actually swim with these beaches, that does make me wonder what's wrong with all the others. Oh, actually, I was about to continue and the not permitted caught my eye, and so floating swim markers show the swim zone boundaries in the water. Swimming past or outside these markers is not permitted. Not permitted in terms of a water safety, or just not permitted and you'll get fined kind of way, because that's a big difference. That's like nothing I've ever heard before. I mean, it's just up to people's own discretion in Australia, just if they want to swim outside the flags or just be taken out by a surfboarder generally if you're going to be outside the flags. But I don't know a single place besides someone's private pool that swimming is not permitted. If it's in the ocean, it's permitted, unless you're just going to be, I don't know, in Sydney Harbour, I guess that's not permitted, but at the beach, it's permitted. Actually, hang on a second, I don't know how I didn't notice it the first time around, but it just goes back to what I was talking about before in terms of, let's just say there's a nuclear power plant right there. What are those chimney stacks for? Are they coal? Are they gas? Are they just there for decoration? What are they there for? And why are they in the middle of, I'm going to call it the city? But hey, regardless, I did actually enjoy this little video because even though she didn't blow me away with anything too outlandish at the same time, I don't actually think that is the worst thing, just being able to carry whatever it is from your home country, your home city, just over here, be it the beaches, the cafe, the museum, the nightlife, or anything like that, just really makes it, like I said, just feel a little bit more homely. And whether you were just living in Canada or you're just there for a 2-day trip, I'm sure you're just going to be able to find something in any city of Canada just to treat you well.